Hello! I'm going to do my schizophrenia notes as a video post, like I said before. So here it goes. I'm going to start off with the classification and the diagnosis. I speak with my hands too much. The classification and the diagnosis of schizophrenia for those who don't know or have any background idea of schizophrenia. And now I'm speaking with my shoulders. And for me to remember, because I have an exam on Tuesday. I will be also doing addiction if anybody wants to look out. If you find this very annoying, just give me a feedback and I'll stop with these videos. Right, here it goes. The DSM was designed for a reliable diagnosis of psychotic disorders. However, there is very little evidence that it is highly reliable. Whaley, 2001, found the inter-rater reliability correlations in the diagnosis of schizophrenia was as low as 0.11. showing that the DSM isn't very reliable. So yeah. But we have to carry on learning about it if you want to pass A-level psychology. Under the Diagnostic and the Statistical Manual 4, the diagnosis of schizophrenia requires at least 1 month duration, up till 6 months, of 2 or more positive symptoms. Positive symptoms, aka acute symptoms, are delusions, which is bizarre beliefs that seem real to the schizophrenic but aren't real, can be paranoid in nature, inflated beliefs about the schizophrenic's power and importance, belief that behaviour or comments of others are meant for the schizophrenic, experience of control. Schizophrenics generally feel that they're being controlled by an outside power, by an alien force, like their mind or their body is being controlled by that. They feel a presence of spirits or implanted radio transmitters, like they feel as if they don't have control over their body, it's been taken over by somebody else. They experience hallucinations, unreal perception of the environment, which is either auditory, visual, smelling. I was going to say the fancy word, but I can't pronounce it too well. I'm not going to make a fool out of myself. And touch, as well as disordered thinking, thoughts that have been inserted or withdrawn from the mind. So, like, they think their thoughts are being inserted or withdrawn from their mind. Thoughts are broadcasted to others. I don't know why it sounded so weird. Broadcasted to others. So, you know, you see those people on the streets that go, no, and they like speaking to somebody else. Tiny bit schizophrenic. As well as they have very tangible thoughts, like they go off on loads of different tangents. They're incoherent and very loosely associated speech, so nothing ever makes sense. There are also negative symptoms. So as you can tell, the positive symptoms are very out there and like very woohoo! The negative symptoms, however, which are also known as chronic symptoms, is affective flattening, which is a reduction in range and the intensity of emotional expression, including facial expression. So that basically. Alogia, which is a lack of speech. They don't speak much, which is quite like they've kept their thoughts to themselves. Slowing down or blocking of thoughts. These lessens fluency of speech and productivity, so they just like sit around and like do nothing. Elevation, which is a reduction or inability to move and be persistent in, you know, directive behavior. So again, sitting down, doing nothing for hours, just, you know, staring into space because they've got nothing better to do. There are also subtypes of schizophrenia. Now, we don't need to know too much about them, but I'll just quickly go through them, just so people have an idea. These paranoid schizophrenics, herbophrenic, which is also known as disorganized, catatonic, which are strange positions and weird. Oh, sorry, I didn't explain the herbophrenic one. Was aimless behavior and speech is incoherent. You're either overboard, you react to someone's death and you think it's funny. Inappropriateness of the effect, which I just said. Then the catatonic, you're not allowing anybody to move you, you're sitting quite awkwardly, and it's really weird. And undifferentiated, this is my favourite one, is that you either have too many symptoms, or you have too many little symptoms. Too little symptoms. You just can't be categorized. Post-schizophrenic depression is when you have shown symptoms of schizophrenia in the last 12 months, but you don't show it anymore. However, there are prolonged signs of depression. Then there's simple schizophrenia, which is slow but progressive. Symptoms have been shown over the 12 months. There's social withdrawal, poverty of speech, and decline in performance. So you're just not reacting to anything. However, none of these can be measured all too well because they have unreliable symptoms. Excuse my pronunciation of this guy's name. Kollester Cotter et al. 1994. Et al. Means and others. Assessed 489 admissions to a psychiatric unit in Germany to see what to see what symptoms were more suited for the determination of a diagnosis of schizophrenia. And he found that positive symptoms were more useful than negative symptoms to justify whether a person is schizophrenic or not. However, Mojabi and Nicholson, 1995, 50 senior psychiatrists in the US were asked to differentiate between bizarre and non-bizarre delusions, which produced an inter-rater reliability correlation of 0.40. Once again, not too strong. So even the central diagnosis requirement lacks a lot of reliability methods distinguishing between schizophrenia and non-schizophrenia. Yeah, for all of these, there needs to be some kind of validity, like somebody has to get it right. But no, nobody got it right because Bentol et al. 1998 concluded that schizophrenia was not a useful scientific category. Sorry, has to be scientific. Sorry, I'm just trying to turn my page over. The symptoms, once again, like I mentioned before, there are so many of them, you just never know which one's right or wrong. Shandyer, 1959, referred to the symptoms such as delusions, believes that the thoughts were being broadcasted and hearing hallucinatory voices were ranked as first-rank symptoms, according to him, nobody else but him. As they distinguished schizophrenia from other disorders, because they were more reliable. However, schizophrenic symptoms are also found in other disorders, such as like depression or bipolar disorder. But Ellison and Rose, 1995, found that people with dissociative identity disorder actually have more schizophrenic symptoms than schizophrenics themselves. What to do? Overall, all in all, the overall outcome, also known as prognosis, people diagnosed as schizophrenics rarely show the same symptoms, which is true because everyone's different, you know, your genetic makeup is different, your social influence is different, but moving on to that later. Rarely share the same symptoms. Likewise, the evidence shows that, you know, they are less likely to share the same prognosis. Prognosis varies in very different patients. For instance, 20% are recovering from their previous levels of function, so before they were schizophrenic. 10% achieving significant or lasting improvement, and 30% showing some improvement with intermittent relapse. So, you know, they're going back to being schizophrenic, they're not schizophrenic, going back to schizophrenic. Therefore, the diagnosis of schizophrenia has very little predictive validity. Some may never recover from the disorder, but some may do, you never know. So, Malberg et al. 1998 said that gender can also have an influence on recovering from schizophrenia. So, doesn't say which one wins, but you get what I'm trying to say. Females. That was a personal input, don't count me on that. Harrison et al. 2001 as do factors, other things that influence the prognosis of schizophrenia are social skills, academic achievement, and family tolerance of schizophrenic behavior. It is extremely difficult for families with schizophrenics to actually, A, accept, B, live with it, and C, even show enough support. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that was the classification and diagnosis of schizophrenia. As it's been 10 minutes, I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to move on to the next one, and then we can just follow it up. It's going to be like an essay. Cool. See you around.